Narrator, deep, slow, commanding. Imagine a secret, one so heavy it bends a man's soul. A secret carried for an entire lifetime. A secret locked behind smiles, hidden in silence, buried in shadows. And then, imagine that secret escaping, not in a private whisper, but in front of millions, live under the world's brightest lights. Tonight, Keanu Reeves let that secret slip. And in that single moment, the world stopped watching a movie star and began witnessing a broken man. The camera fades in. Jimmy Kimmel's stage glows under blinding spotlights. The energy is electric. Laughter, cheers, applause thundering across the hall. The audience is on their feet, waving, screaming his name. It feels like any other late-night moment of joy and entertainment. But then, Keanu steps out. His presence is calm, almost angelic. A faint smile curves his lips. He waves politely, gently, humbly. But there's something else. Something behind. His eyes, a shadow, a weight no audience can see, but every soul can feel. The applause grows louder, echoing through the studio. Yet Keanu doesn't soak it in. He doesn't revel in the praise. Instead, his gaze flickers downward for the briefest second, as if the clapping hands remind him of something he cannot escape, something from another time, another place. Narrator, slowing, building suspense. The world thought they were about to hear another charming interview, another funny story, another safe, polished smile. But what they got was the moment Keanu Reeves' silence finally broke. And no one in that hall, not Jimmy, not the audience, not the millions watching from home, was ready for the truth. The applause dies down. Jimmy leans forward, smiling, unaware of the storm about to come. Jimmy, grinning, leaning forward. Keanu, everybody knows you as the action hero, the legend who never misses a fight. But people want to know the real you. Any childhood memory? Maybe about your father? The audience bursts into soft laughter, assuming it's a casual question. Some expect a funny story, others a clever comeback. The studio atmosphere is warm, light, buzzing with energy, but in a heartbeat, everything changes. Keanu's smile falters. The twinkle in his eyes flickers out like a candle in the wind. His jaw tightens ever so slightly. He doesn't laugh. He doesn't nod. He doesn't even blink for a moment. The crowd begins to sense the shift. Applause quiets. Laughter dies mid-breath. The silence grows heavy, uncomfortable. Narrator, deep, steady. What was meant to be a harmless question had just struck a wound that never healed. Jimmy, still smiling, doesn't catch it at first. He leans back casually, expecting a witty answer, but across from him, Keanu lowers his gaze. His shoulders stiffen, his lips part, but no words come, only a long, aching pause that stretches across the room. Keanu, softly, voice breaking the silence. Some stories are meant to stay buried. The words hang in the air like smoke, fragile yet suffocating. The crowd shifts uneasily in their seats. Some exchange glances, others look down. A woman in the front row stops smiling altogether. Even the cameras seem to pause, zooming slowly on Keanu's face, as if they too recognize the gravity of the moment. Narrator, low, haunting. The laughter stops. The air changes. And for the first time, the world realizes this isn't going to be another ordinary interview. Jimmy, leaning closer, voice playful but insistent. But your fans want to hear it, Keanu. Your father. What do you remember of him? The audience chuckles lightly again, expecting a sentimental story, perhaps about a lesson learned. A funny family memory. The cameras zoom in on Keanu's face, waiting for that signature humble smile, but it doesn't come. Instead, his jaw tightens. His right hand, resting on the armrest of the chair, begins to tremble almost imperceptibly. He clenches it, gripping the leather so hard that his knuckles turn white. His other hand finds the edge of his knee, pressing down, grounding himself. as though the question has knocked the air from his lungs. Narrator, low, measured. In that moment, a single sentence pierced through decades of silence. It wasn't just a question. It was a scalpel, reopening a wound he had spent his life hiding. Keanu inhales sharply, a deep, heavy breath that echoes in the microphone. He doesn't look at Jimmy. He doesn't look at the audience. His eyes shift downward, as though searching the floor for something, perhaps the right words or perhaps the strength to say them at all. Keanu, voice strained, quiet, but cutting through the silence. To remember someone, they have to be there. The words land like a stone dropped into still water. The echo spreads, heavy, unavoidable. The audience stiffens. A few people gasp softly, realizing the weight behind the sentence. Keanu, after a pause, his voice breaking slightly, and he wasn't. The hall falls into absolute stillness. No laughter, no clapping. The silence is alive, thick, suffocating. Even Jimmy's grin evaporates as the meaning settles in. He leans back slowly, eyes flickering with the realization that this isn't entertainment anymore. This is raw pain, unraveling live under blinding lights. Narrator, deep, somber. The studio froze. In that silence, the world heard something louder than applause, louder than laughter, the voice of a child, still asking why his father never stayed. The camera lingers on Keanu's face, eyes glistening, lips trembling, but a wall of strength barely holding back the storm inside him. Jimmy, hesitant, voice softening yet pressing, "Do you remember his name?" The words hang in the air, heavy and deliberate, like a spark falling onto dry kindling. Keanu's entire body stills. For a heartbeat, the studio seems to pause. Clocks stop. Cameras linger. Even the audience breathes collectively in anticipation. His hands, previously gripping the armrests, loosen slightly. His chest rises and falls with shallow, controlled breaths, a rhythm he has practiced for decades. But no amount of meditation or focus can shield him from the raw weight of what is being asked. Time stretches. The audience, sensing the gravity of the moment, grows silent. Even the crew stops whispering instructions. Every eye is on him. Every microphone seems too loud. Every light too bright. And then his lips tremble, quivering under the force of memory and emotion. Keanu, voice barely audible, like a fragile thread being pulled free. Samuel Nolan Reeves, Jr. The name falls into the studio like a key turning in a rusted lock. It is more than words. It is decades of absence, of questions left unanswered, of a child's longing finally acknowledged. The pause that follows is deafening. It is the sound of a lifetime of withheld pain, echoing into the present. Narrator, slow, low, haunting. This wasn't just a name. It was a lock breaking open on decades of pain. Every laugh, every cheer, every light-hearted moment of the past had been shadowed by this absence. And now, in that single whisper, the silence itself became a witness to a truth that had waited far too long to be spoken. The camera zooms in on Keanu's eyes, glistening, brimming, reflecting the studio lights. A storm, restrained by a fragile calm. The audience remains frozen, knowing they are watching something far beyond ordinary television. Keanu, voice trembling, breaking. "I was 3 years old. 3! The words slice through the studio air like a knife. Every clap, every laugh, every murmured expectation evaporates instantly. The audience freezes, some pressing hands to their mouths, others blinking rapidly to hold back tears. The weight of the moment is almost physical, pressing down on every seat in the room. Keanu leans forward slightly, his hands gripping the armrests so tightly his knuckles are white. The calm, composed actor, known for years of poise, now trembles. Before millions, revealing a lifetime of pain that had never been touched. Keanu, continuing, voice strained. And since that day, I've asked myself, what could a child possibly do so wrong? That his own father walks away? The silence is suffocating. Jimmy Kimmel sits pale, visibly shaken, realizing this is no longer a casual interview. The lights feel harsher, the applause is gone, and the studio has transformed into a chamber of raw human emotion. Cameras hover, capturing the vulnerability, each lens a silent witness. Keanu leaning even closer, voice trembling, eyes glistening. You don't want my story, Jimmy. You want my wounds, my pain, packaged as your entertainment. The words strike like thunder, leaving echoes in every corner of the studio. Some audience members quietly cry, wiping away tears as they recognize the betrayal of trust, the exploitation of human suffering. The tension is electric, a physical charge in the air. Jimmy leans back, stunned, unsure whether to speak or retreat. Narrator, deep, slow. In that instant, the stage was no longer a set for entertainment. It had become a confessional, a courtroom, a sanctuary of truth. The line between performance and reality had vanished, leaving only Keanu and the unvarnished pain he carried for decades. The camera lingers on his face, eyes full of sorrow, lips quivering, yet a quiet strength radiating, even through the tears. Keanu, His words hang unfinished. The studio air feels heavy, almost suffocating. Every eye is on Keanu, whose calm demeanor has been shattered, replaced by a storm barely contained. The audience, initially expecting a light-hearted anecdote, senses the magnitude of the moment. The usual hum of a live show is gone, replaced by a reverent silence. Keanu, cutting him off, voice trembling yet firm, tears streaming down his face. No, you just opened a scar. His words pierce the studio like glass breaking. Every syllable carries decades of unresolved pain, a lifetime of questions left unanswered, a wound that never healed. The tremor in his voice is matched only by the tears tracing silent paths down his cheeks. The audience holds its breath. Some glance at each other, unable to fully process the raw honesty displayed before them. Keanu, continuing, gaze fixed on Jimmy, voice growing stronger. You thought this would be your viral moment, but for me, it's a prison. The word prison echoes, heavy with metaphorical weight. It isn't just a description. It is the accumulation of every abandoned birthday, every lonely milestone, every longing for a father who chose absence over presence. The studio feels frozen in time, lights glaring, cameras capturing every micro-expression, every quiver of his lips, every drop of emotion unshielded. Narrator, deep, deliberate, somber. The audience is silent, not one laugh, not one clap, only the sound of truth, raw and unbearable. The illusion of entertainment has shattered, leaving a room full of people facing a human story too powerful to be contained. For a moment, the world outside ceased to matter. What remained was Keanu, confronting his pain with courage, exposing the heart of a wound carried for decades. The camera lingers on Keanu's face, tears reflecting the bright studio lights, a mixture of fragility and quiet, undeniable strength. Keanu sits silently for a moment, the tremor in his hands slowly subsiding. He reaches up, gently removing the microphone clipped to his shirt, setting it carefully on the couch beside him. The gesture is deliberate, calm, controlled, almost ritualistic. His eyes glisten with tears, yet his voice emerges steady, carrying the quiet authority of someone reclaiming control. Keanu, softly, measured. My father left me once. I won't let this stage take me the same way. The audience sits frozen. Some exhale slowly, overwhelmed by the intensity of the moment. The usual murmur of anticipation, the light-hearted applause, is replaced by an almost sacred silence. Cameras linger, capturing the subtle rise and fall of his chest, the quiet resolve in his posture, the glimmer of tears reflecting the studio lights. He rises deliberately, each movement precise, almost ceremonial. The slight bow of his head carries centuries of restrained emotion, a gesture of acknowledgement, humility, and farewell. The energy in the room shifts. Is no longer a television set but a witness chamber for raw truth, for human vulnerability, exposed and honored. The audience begins to stir, standing slowly. Not one clap, not a cheer, just a quiet, collective respect. The silence speaks louder than any applause ever could. Keanu walks toward the exit, each step steady, reclaiming the dignity that was momentarily challenged, asserting that some stories are his to carry, not for entertainment, not for consumption. Narrator, somber deep. In that walk, Keanu reclaimed his truth, turning vulnerability into quiet strength. The stage remained, but the man had returned to himself, and the world, just for a moment, understood the difference between performance and the weight of lived pain. The camera holds on. The empty chair, the mic on the couch, and the reverent stillness of a studio, forever changed by a single act of courage.